Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 137. Everyone needs an emoji. Recorded on Friday, March 12th, 2021 from Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
Yeah, so upcoming events and webinars, there's some good ones. We have got a Zoho Sign Overview and Best Practices we are doing on Tuesday. We got to start writing it yesterday. Hopefully we get it done by the time Tuesday rolls around. And then someone requested this and they wrote on YouTube and we talked about it. So we're going to slip in a webinar in between our normal monthly webinars, and we're going to do one on Zoho CRM workflows, beginner and advanced workflows. So we're basically going to cover the whole gambit of workflows. And so there'll be some pretty cool and detailed stuff in there, and that's going to be a fun one. And then also in April, we've got our Zoho People Overview and Best Practices webinar, and that's going to be on April 20th at 10 a.m. Pacific. By the way, that's a Tuesday, which all the other ones are. The workflow one is going to be on Thursday, April 1st, and that's no joke, folks. We're actually going to do that. And as always, head over to crmzen.com, click on the events tab, and check out all the latest events, not just from us, but from Zoho, from other partners, all kinds of cool stuff there. As a matter of fact, I'm participating in one with John Mark Bantock. He was on our show last week, and he actually invited us to participate in one he's got coming up here in a few weeks, which I probably should put on there, which is called, let's see, it's a partner something or other. Oh, here we go. How to achieve successful Zoho implementations through business process analysis. And it's going to be kind of cool. I don't know who all is going to be there, but I think it's myself and John Mark and a couple other top partners. And we're going to kind of run through some cool stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. So that should be good. John, thank you for inviting us over to that. All righty. Let's move right into the news, Tyler, and we start with a big one. We kind of mentioned this last week, but the official announcement hadn't been out, and it finally came out, and Zoho has launched their own telephony solution. I will tell you, we have it. I've been playing with it. We're getting it dialed in and set up right now. I hope by next week we can kind of give you a real full deep dive on it as well. But basically, it's Twilio based. It's got some super nice dashboards, easy to set up. You have an IVR. I would say if you were looking for base telephony functionality that integrates across all Zoho applications, this is kind of worth looking into. If you're wanting, call drops and ringbacks and, call center type stuff, you're still going to need to look at Ring Central, some of the other big ones that are out there. But we'll find out. We'll play around with this. The fact it's based on Twilio, I like a lot. The pricing is super, super, super competitive. I got a lot of clarification on this pricing here recently. So basically, if you get the team version, you are paying $100 a month if it's billed annually. I want to say it's $120 a month billed monthly. And that does give you 2 to 10 people. So that's kind of where they're starting. Then you can add people at they're changing this. I'll show you. I'll kind of go into access because they're really kind of changing the overall pricing on this quite a bit. But what they are doing on this is if you go to their business telephony and you go ahead and your add-ons, it's $19 for each additional user that you can add on to the plan, which is pretty good at the end of the day. We've kind of gone through and looked at it. Originally, you could only buy these in blocks of 10. So that was a little bit more. Phone numbers are $1 a month. And you're basically doing it with these credits that they give you. So anyway, interesting product. I think it's going to be big. It's got just a ton of features. Thoughts?
I mean, this is one that we get asked about a lot is, what's your favorite voice over IP? Which one should we go with inside of Zoho? And, normally we recommend Ring Central if you, want a plug and play option, or Twilio if you're willing to kind of learn how to customize Twilio, because it's very much kind of a developer platform. But, with Ring Central, it has a couple issues around Zoho, right? It really just plugs into CRM or Desk, right? But you don't have kind of like a unified voice over IP across all of Zoho when you're using a plugin like that. I'm pretty excited about this. I mean, it's just something that most people need, right? If you're heavily using a CRM, you're heavily using these types of cloud solutions, and I'm excited that they've rolled it out.
Yeah, and Rich in the chat room was pointing out you need enterprise for IVR, which is true. And this is, I actually got an email from them breaking this down because it's kind of all over the map. You need enterprise, and they're changing this pricing on the fly. I mean, they are literally I'm noticing here over the couple of days, this used to have a whole different package. So you're paying $39 per month per user if you want an IVR, which is strange to me that they're adding that in. But I guess it does get a little, if you look at it at the end of the day and you say, great, what do I get from Ring Central for the same price? You might find it's a little better. I think for the base version, non-IVR, probably okay. It's going to be interesting to see how this all parses out. But I am looking forward to it just from a pure integration standpoint. If it's super slick, it's interesting because I can't tell. It has to be following their telephony side of things, but when you look at it, it's slightly different. So when we dig in, it'll be kind of curious to see what it looks like. And we're also the base version Twilio voice add-on is similar but much cheaper. Yeah, it's kind of there's a whole lot going on here. Jive. Someone's talking about Jive. I don't want to say anything bad about it, but let's just say that we gave it a whole big run for about 6 months, and we just ran into too many issues. Just more from I guess I would say from a Zoho CRM integration standpoint. But man, I guess we could do a whole episode just on telephony alone, huh?
Really good.
Kind of go through what's going on there. All right, and then the beginning of the month, so we get the basically the roundups for the financial suite. So we've got Invoice and Books, and over in Invoice, they've done some interesting things, Tyler.
Yeah, so kind of one big rollout here is adding a developer space. That I can say the building the connections, you can kind of already do that just through the custom function UI. This is a better way to do it, but you could already do that one. The one thing that's huge here that actually I've bumped into recently with a couple clients is that they've added an API usage dashboard, which is, I would say, should be required in every app. Previously inside of Books, there was really Books and Invoice, I should say. There wasn't one place to go to see what exactly is consuming my API credits right now, right? So if you're getting warnings that are saying, hey, you're bumping up against your limits, you really didn't have a way to figure out what it was that was doing that, right? So you'd have to kind of run an audit, maybe look at recently updated records and work backwards. But this is now basically giving you, similar to what you've got in the CRM, which is a breakdown. How many have I used today? What modules are they hitting? What applications are they hitting? Where are all the API calls coming from? Really, it's a need to have type of functionality if you're going to run any type of larger scale automation. So it's a really, really nice update there.
Yeah, discounts on price lists, which is, I think, something that people have wanted for a while. Advanced analytics in the reports module. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this or not.
Yeah, this is something they've been doing in a lot of apps. I'm interested if they'll do it in the CRM. It's really just that they're embedding analytics within Books. I will say every now and then, this actually causes a little bit of an issue in that if it's going to automatically create that workspace when you create a Books account, you might not actually want it to do that. Because you might want to add your Books data to CRM, or you might want to add your Books data to an existing workspace. So I have to see how that one shakes out, but I do like bringing that reporting right into Books so that you're not having to go to analytics to see it.
Well, is it creating these workspaces in analytics as well? You see them in both places, but it's just showing you the ones for Invoice in this case?
Yeah, but the important thing to know with that, though, is that when you're creating workspaces, you can only create one for each application. So I can't point my Zoho Finance or Invoice data to two different workspaces at once. So generally what you actually want to do, especially if you're a Zoho One user, is create a workspace for CRM first, and then add your data from Finance and Desk and projects into your CRM workspace so that you've got it all in one, right? And I can say, show me invoices based on accounts in the CRM with a certain identifier, those types of reports that you're going to want. So I'll be interested to see just how that rolls out, with pulling that into invoice and books.
All right. And then where there is an invoice update, there is a books update, and soon we'll have a subscription update to follow on all of this. And you've got developer space again in books and the monitoring of API, basically invoice and books. Invoice is just kind of the stepchild of Zoho Books. So really nothing, here that we didn't see already in invoice, except, they've also made some updates to the Zoho Books iOS app. I love the option to charge customers using Stripe in the iOS app. That's just big. That's really, really, really nice. But just a nice set of updates. We see these every month. It's nice to get this roundup. I imagine, usually these rolled out last month and there wasn't an announcement. And if we didn't see it, there's just so much we don't really talk about it. But the books suite and financial suite seems to roll right along. All right. And now Recruit integrates with Seek. So if you are unfamiliar with Seek, it is a career site and a job board. And there you go. Yet another one that Zoho Recruit's integrating with.
Yeah, and they really just have a ton. I mean, you go through that jobs boards list in Recruit, and every time I do it for a client, I see all these ones that I've never even heard of, but they've got their integration to it, and that's a good thing, right? You want to be able to make that job opening in Recruit and then just easily post it out to all these places. I mean, gosh knows it's a lot better than going to each individual job posting board and creating that job opening there, right? You just create it in Recruit, post it out to everywhere that you want to, spread that opportunity.
Yeah, it's super nice. I mean, the linkage they have between them, whether you've got the paid version or the free version, and everything being pulled into the one central application is good. So it's Zoho Recruit.
And I will say there's one thing to be aware of with Zoho Recruit and the job boards is that some of them actually require that you promote the post in order to use it. So for like Indeed, for example, if you want to post to Indeed through Recruit, you actually have to spend more than $1 basically on promoting it. What I've done with clients in the past is we just create a tiny, tiny, tiny budget just to kind of get past that, right? And you keep like a couple dollars inside of that account just so that it stays live. But just something to be aware of if you're planning on using Recruit for that there are just a couple boards that require promotion.
Yep. And then Zoho Meeting, under the category of I would have sworn that was a thing, leave or end meeting session right from within the Zoho Meeting iOS app. You actually can now leave or end a meeting inside the application, which is just hysterical. But anyway,
that would be on the list for V1, but it's good to have it,
I'm glad they got it in there. You definitely think that would have been a V1 thing, huh?
Yeah.
Also, I don't know how I didn't know this because I think we're always been playing with the webinar side. And, really one of our things against Zoho Meeting has been recording quality, but Zoho Meeting does not record video. It is not a thing. So I had someone mention that and looked into it. So again, another reason. I know that they're really beefing up their data centers and doing a lot with this. And we're actually had a Zoho meeting last week with Zoho that went exceptionally well, I thought. I love the new interface. I love some things there. Right now, I really think that the whole thing is just getting down to, cleaning up that recording engine.
I did notice too, the audio quality. I hear your voice a lot coming through Zoom. And I can tell you it was a little bit different over in Zoho Meeting. It didn't quite have that radio quality to it.
Yeah, it needs, they need to just kind of clean that stuff up, but at least they continue to make updates on a weekly basis. And now that I can end a meeting, that's just great.
Steps in the right direction.
It's just great. All right. And Zia Search has been added to Workplace. I know you're in love with Zia Search. You wanted to come to CRM. It has not come to CRM yet. But it now it's over at Workplace. So I mean, how much longer must we wait?
I know we're just waiting for that big redo of CRM Search. We did spread the tip last week that you are able to order your search based on the order of your modules. So that's a step in the right direction. But I'm waiting for that expanded search bar to come across, hopefully sooner than later.
That was the craziest tip I've ever seen in my entire life. We got that from a listener, and I'm just like, that cannot even be possible, that if you just move contacts to be the very, very first module after home, that contacts are going to search first. So yes, but this is what we need, right? I mean, you're loving this new search.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. And I think too, one of the nice things about that is being able to search across the whole organization. So if I search in one place, I could see their record in desk or in books, kind of app agnostic, right? When you're searching for information, I think that's a pretty nice little feature there.
Yeah. And if you are a Zoho People user, this is kind of the one newsletter we really talk about every single month that it comes out, because, once you go into that, Zoho People is deep. I mean, it is extremely dense application, but it's super, super powerful, but it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, you really need to know your way around that application, because sometimes things are buried several menu levels deep, and each menu may have, 10, 15 different options on it. And there's just a lot going on in Zoho People. So for Zoho People administrators, I really think you should always check out their newsletter. And it came out this month. They're also doing a webinar on March 17th, which is what's new in Zoho People. So you can register for that as well. But this is always a good newsletter, chock full of good stuff, I think, for HR professionals that have to manage Zoho People.
Absolutely.
All righty. And that brings us to the implementation of the week. What have we got, Tyler?
Yes, this is one that we've kind of done in a couple different shapes and forms, but we thought we would kind of roll it up here for one implementation. And basically, it's just the ability to create a customer journey that's fully automated, just running through Zoho Campaigns, leveraging a Shopify connector for the CRM. So, a common use case is the first time someone makes a purchase on your website, you might want to put them in a drip of just a handful of emails, maybe recommending other products, maybe linking them to a newsletter they can sign up for. But, you don't want to have to remember to send all those things out, as people are moving through. You really just want, once someone becomes a customer, that they enter that pre-designed journey and then receive those emails. And so what we actually do in this case is, we connect in to the CRM. They actually already have a pre-built connector for Shopify. So you can pull orders and customers into, your sales orders and your contacts. Then we just put together a quick little workflow that, basically when a sales order is created, updates the related contact to identify them as a buyer or customer. And then once they're identified as a customer, we can selectively pull them into a mailing list and campaigns for those customers, right? And then all you got to do is line up that mailing list with the journey that you want them to receive. And then automatically, when they place that order, they just get synced right into that list and enter the journey for a new customer. So it's really, nothing too crazy here. Like no deluge code involved on this one. Oftentimes our implementations, we're summing up hundreds of lines of code that we've written into a couple bullets. This one is really point and shoot, just leveraging some pre-built tools and connectors.
Now, when Shopify writes in the orders, I know we do have to do some magic. If you wanted to filter this to the next level, which is I ordered something and we know what products I've ordered, how are we doing something like that? That is deluge code, right? We're having to pull out those products and strip them so we can go across that.
That's where you go into deluge code. And what we normally recommend on that is that you create product groupings. You can do it at a per product level, but it gets just a little bit messier. So oftentimes you might want to create some groupings, right? So, in our case, maybe we would group CRM and sales into sales and marketing apps, and maybe we would group books and subscriptions into finance apps. Right. And then as long as you identify all of those on the customer records, then once that order comes in, you look at the products and, based on the different product groupings that they have, you can add them into kind of a simpler structure of lists. Right. If you just have a handful of products, you could go at a product level. But it's a lot easier if anytime you're adding a new product, as long as it's in a marketing group, then it'll flow into things as you'd like it to.
Yeah, but super important for product sales and having it come in and know. And we've got one client working with right now, which is, it's the products and it's the versions and, how old the product is and if they're ready for upgrades, and you've got all these kind of things, and to track all of that and then be able to drop them into an automated journey based upon where they're at. It's powerful stuff. Nice implementation. All right, let's move on to this week's read. So I've been waiting for a while. So a couple of weeks ago, Zoho did something called ZohoDay. And ZohoDay is really interesting, and that this is where they get in all of the analysts to come in and talk about what's going on in the world of Zoho and in the CRM. And normally it's done in Austin, Texas, and it's a live event. This one was virtual with 150 analysts that were there. We were hoping CRM Zen would get invited, but it didn't. So we really are depending on others to say, hey, what's going on. This is from ZohoDay coverage from 2010. I have a feeling this is 2021. But there has been nothing. Normally the reporting on this, Tyler, is really, really detailed. Like, wow, this is what's happening with Zoho. This is where they're going. This is what their numbers are. This is their sales. This is their growth. This is, all of those kind of things. But all I have seen, and I've been waiting, are basically articles like this one over on DIGINOMICA by Phil Wainewright, which is just talking about Zoho's goal for transnational localism, which really is moving everybody out of the cities or having the ability for people to work from villages, from small towns, from pretty much wherever they want, and decentralizing your entire work environment and the ability to basically enable that through Zoho's tools. But they're really going all in on it. And, we've talked about this in the past. Sridhar has moved to a small village just outside of Chennai. And his whole goal is to kind of decentralize people into these little pods of, a village with maybe an office, but it's got 20 people in it, right? So if you've got a 10,000 person company, you're spreading out those, 10,000 people over 500 offices. Pretty interesting concept. This article, I think, kind of goes into it a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting concept because basically it has a twofold benefit. Is that one, you're allowing your current employees to not have to live in a super urban environment just to be a part of the team. A lot of people, I think, would like to be able to maybe be a little outside a city if they can, right? Not sit in as much traffic, right? Kind of not be a part of the hustle and bustle. And then kind of the other benefit of this, and something that I really give a lot of kudos to Zoho and Sridhar on, is that they're trying to inject more opportunity into some of those rural areas that have been left behind by the technological revolution that we've seen over the last while now, as the software has become so much a part of everyone's business. Is all the wealth and value being generated from that is really centralized into a handful of cities and urban environments. And so I think part of this goal is, to go out into these places where they've not seen a lot of new opportunity with the rise of software and kind of bring some of it there, whether it's training programs, opening up rural offices. I know they're building whole schools of learning, right, to train people directly out of high school, to learn how to code and learn how to build these different software elements. And I just think it's really cool. I mean, we've always been a remote company ourselves. And it's always worked for us. And I think this is where a lot of things are going to go over time when you have a business that doesn't really need to be in a physical location.
No, and we were talking before the show. I mean, I read a study, it was a decade ago. I have no idea how accurate it is now, but it was something like most Americans, like something like 80% of all Americans have never traveled more than 100 miles from where they were born, right? That's it. That's where they get. And for some of us, that's kind of very difficult or impossible to think of that can be the case, but it is the case. And so, you're born into a town, and that town has a thriving industry that was maybe founded in the 40s or 50s. And, we're seeing more and more. A lot of the industries are drying up, and, to spread the technological boom, which is really what our society's become, a society of tech, and to allow people to do it from anywhere, not have to necessarily leave their homes, leave their families, leave their cities, leave where they were born. It's not bad. And I think eventually it could drive cost down because cost of living out in the country is a heck of a lot cheaper than it is in San Francisco.
Yeah, I'll tell you that. And yeah, Mark, one of our listeners, mentioned too, that it's great for retention, right? That by allowing people to work from home, it becomes a lot more sticky. When you're sitting in a 1 hour commute, you've got a lot of time to think about all your gripes with your job, right? As you're sitting there in traffic. But when you wake up, have a cup of coffee and walk into your office, it's a way better way to start the day. So
Yeah, it is. All right, let's move on to what's new on Zenatta.com. So 13 must-have browser extensions and apps that make Zoho better. So it's interesting. This article was originally published a long time ago, May 18th of 2019. And I was kind of going through a list of some of our analytics and what articles are getting the most views and what people are looking at and what's kind of SEO'd up and gone out. And this article been looked at like 15,000 times. I was like, wow, I haven't looked at this in 2 years. Perhaps we should update this if it's getting so many people are looking at it. So went through, took out 5 and put 5 new ones back in. But these are kind of things that we use from an app and an extension basis pretty much on a daily basis, from FormStack, which basically automates the entire proposal creation process, including the ability to have dynamic proposals where sections are in or they're out, all sorts of things like that. Firefly's AI, which we all use on a daily basis, which completely transcribes and does all of our recordings for, audio recordings and transcriptions for all of our meetings that we do. And by the way, then automatically links it back to the CRM. Link Match, which I think we've probably talked about ad nauseum on this show, Tyler, a absolutely amazing LinkedIn plugin, which will write those people directly to your CRM and put their picture in there and all their other information that can be publicly scraped from LinkedIn. And by the way, if you have a first level connection with them, it brings in a ton more information at that point in time as well. Gmail. Zoho for Gmail, just a great application if you're living in Gmail. Grammarly, yes, Zoho has got Zia, which does a lot of that, but on a day-to-day basis, I will tell you that Grammarly has, I think, saved me, 10 times a day at least. And then a couple clippers. Zoho Notebook Web Clipper, if you're using it, it's indispensable. Zoho Annotator for screen capture, absolutely great as well. Z Share, which is the social media. So if you're using Zoho Social, you got to have Z Share. One we've really been digging into lately is Clear.io. I think we're using this, which with so many clients nowadays. And yeah, I mean, this is just what this does is you basically upload a list. Say you've got 10,000 contacts. Let's say they're legitimate. You should be able to email to them. But if you haven't emailed to somebody in 6 months, odds are that list is a little stale. You're going to get a pretty high bounce rate. You send that list to Clear.io. They will tell you what works, what's good, what's not good, what's catch-all, which ones are dead. Really can parse your list down, and that way you're not going to get marked as a spammer. That high bounce rate. Zoho Sign for Gmail, a new one that I just love. If you want to sign a document inside of Gmail, this is, right in the email there. You click Zoho Sign, you choose the attachment you want to sign. It pulls it directly into Zoho Sign. Away you go. Zoho Vault, this was a new inclusion as well because it's improved so much over the last year and a half. So the Zoho Vault Chrome extension is amazing. And then I think we talked about this one a few weeks ago. This is your favorite SMS, MMS extension for CRM, Tyler, which is the one by Deluge on a Luge.
Yeah, absolutely great plugin.
Yeah.
Absolutely great plugin.
Yeah, does amazing things.
If you're doing SMS, and especially if it's if you want to run automated SMS and have your team able to manually send text messages, there's not a better interface to do that with than the CRM. I mean, if you're watching this on video, you'll see the little screenshot. It basically is a shameless copy of iMessage, the little UI that's built in here. But inside of a contact, a lead, an opportunity, you basically have an iMessage window to just text that person, right? So in terms of all the SMS apps we've ever tried, nothing comes close to that in terms of ease of use. You've got templates, you've got mass SMS, you've got all those types of things that you want to run. And it's cheaper than most options too, especially if you have a larger team. So it's definitely one to take a look at.
Yep. And then rounding it out, and this is truly a last but not least, this one could have been at the very top. We had John Mark on last week, the Catalyst Connect WordPress plugin. It has to be included on this list. If you need a portal for virtually any core Zoho application, this is really the only place to go. It's a WordPress plugin, easy to set up, and you can do some great stuff. So took us almost 2 years, but we updated this list, and I think it's a good one. So take a look at that application as well, or that article as well. And then Tyler, we got a case study this month, and it's from Zoom Transportation, and I think you worked on this one, huh?
Yes, this was, it's interesting. Sometimes our clients range, right, from, vertical integration with manufacturers to, long form drip marketing, inventory management. Zoom was a case where it was just CRM, just straight up CRM. Basically, they had a CRM in Zoho, and it was being used. People were working leads, they had deals, they had accounts, right? People were kind of working in it, but there wasn't a standard process. There wasn't a lot of automation, right? And tasking and things like that. But the good part was that the people were using it and they wanted it to be better. So we already had the adoption, right? And so really, we just hammered in the basics and got all the basics dialed in from, all the forms coming in with lead sources, right? Then those lead sources being assigned to the right person, and then auto tasks getting set up for people, right? A little basic section where you can put in your qualifying info and then it auto converts the lead, right? All the different deal stages. And really, it's an implementation that had a minimal amount of, custom deluge, custom code, but it was really just a methodical build of what does it take to get from that form submission to a closed won deal? And how do we make that as simple as humanly possible, which is what we did here. If you read the case study, down the line, after we had the CRM dialed in, we did do a little integration with their order platform to show sales reps like order history and things like that. But really the core of this was just getting the basics right, which is, what do you do with the lead? How do you get them to convert? And then what are our steps to close the deal? And once we locked that all in, they've been off to the races with their new CRM.
Yeah, good stuff. And then Wayne found yet one more resource guide. This is for another, kind of going back to Zoho people, how to take your business forward with people and analytics. And this little step-by-step guide that will kind of take you through that entire process. I don't know where we keep finding these, but we go out and dig and find them. So if you want to take a look at this, there's some really good information in there as well. And that brings us to our application of the week. This is a Zoho app, Twemoji, for a Zoho show. So anyway, I don't even know what more to say about this, but you didn't know the power of emojis is upon you right here. So if you get it at 128 points in your presentation, that's great. Basically, all it lets you do is insert emojis into a Zoho show presentation, which I guess was something you couldn't do before, but I would want to do. So there you go. I just cut and pasted these in, but this allows you to kind of directly do it. So I don't know what to say about that, but I think everybody needs an emoji. This was just released a week ago, I think on the 11th. So doesn't everybody need an emoji?
I don't see why not.
What is it, the one you do? You do the...
Well, I like the one that's not an emoji. I'm an old school. I like to do colon caret and then the closed parentheses. I like to put the little carrot nose on mine. So oftentimes that actually sneaks me past the little autofill to make it into an emoji. And so it actually goes out as the text, which I prefer. I like that look more than the emojis.
Old school. You're old school, brother. All right. And then for our tip of the week, we are going back. So we have our beginner series. Is this the first one, the second one on Zoho Sign? Where are we? This is the second one, I think. Yes. So our Zoho Sign beginner series, all leading up to our webinar that we're going to be doing next week. And this one is just covering sign forms. So if you ever wanted to know what a sign form was, how to do it, how to set it up, this is the 4-minute video for you. Anything to say on this other than...
No, it's quick and easy. Basically, it's just a way to get a little link that you can spread out that allows people to basically self-register to get a signed document from you. So we kind of just walk through a real quick process on how to create one of those for your templates.
Yeah. So good stuff. Check it out. And that brings us to our Q&A. What do we have?
And we actually have a couple of questions here. So we had one earlier from Mark. Will chat ever be able to help across all of Zoho One? So kind of like a unified chat. I would be surprised. The interesting thing is with Zoho is all their different app teams are pretty centralized, meaning that, if you're connected to CRM support, that person is not going to know desk, right? They're not going to know projects. I wouldn't be surprised if they do put in a chat, but it's still going to route you to the individual teams once they figure out what app you're asking about, just because their expertise is kind of centralized to the product they work on. We also had a question from Rich as we were talking about the campaigns and workflows. He asked, can you do something to like a deal based on an email click in a workflow? Kind of thinking about triggering like a deluge function. You can't yet. I actually bumped into that the other day. I would love that if you could run deluge inside of one of your campaigns workflows, right? Like if you click an email, run this function. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it eventually, but I haven't heard anything on that. But yeah, we're in the same boat on that one, Rich. That would be pretty slick.
So you can't, not out of campaigns, but what about inside the CRM? If when you send a bulk email in the CRM, you have the ability to trigger actions, right?
If it's a CRM email.
Right. So in the CRM email, you could trigger it that way, but you have to send it as a mass email. Yeah. Right. Right. So even if you're sending it to 2 or 1, you could do it that way. And then you can trigger that way. I think you can, because can't you update it, Phil? I know you can do a task. You can.
Yeah, it's tricky. I will say it's tricky with the email workflows. Well, one, you'd be sending from CRM, so you're going to bump into your cap, right? You can only send 1,000 or 2,500 mass emails per day via CRM, so it might not be really scalable to do it that way.
Right.
I guess one thing you could look at doing, and this would be at maybe a more advanced level, is you could maybe try to run a schedule of some kind. If you're running a scheduler, maybe you read the Zoho Campaigns related list and try to pull out some information that way with just a CRM scheduled function. We've been using more of those lately when we can't get the trigger that we need, right? If we can't get it right now, then we'll get it at 1 a.m. every day, right? It's kind of if you can't find that perfect trigger. But yeah, I've not found the silver bullet for that one, Rich. It would be nice. That would definitely be nice.
All right. So that is going to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. If you have any questions or comments, please head over to zenatta.com or crmzen.com. And you can actually send emails to info at either one of those, and we'll get back to you.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes, as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.